Whenever a new 4-star gets added to a banner that's completely unrelated to him in terms of 5-star featured, people that specifically want that 4-star have to make a hard decision, namely decide whether or not he's worth pulling enough to risk getting a 5-star you don't necessarily want. Mika suffered this exact fate, as he's being featured in 2 banners alongside cryo ladies that aren't really meant to work with him, as his main fate is with physical characters. So in this video I will give you advices on whether or not he's specifically worth the expense. First of all, what type of character is he? First and foremost, he's a character that combines defensive capabilities with offensive support. This fits the archetype other units already covered for physical characters like Eula. Think of Zhongli or Bennett. Technically, Mika should be a superior option compared to them, as he's also cryo, so he has battery potential over them, but later in the video we'll see why this is not necessarily the case. Starting from his defensive capabilities, they come in the form of healing. Overall, his healing capabilities are just decent, as he offers an instantaneous team heal effect on elemental burst cast, and a continuous active character healing effect tied to the latter's normal attacks, with a 2.5 seconds cooldown. His healing becomes better with his Constellation too, which effectively reduces the cooldown of the heals. When it comes to his supportive effects, Mika is mostly catered to physical damage dealing characters, but with some interesting abilities for other characters too. By that, I mean that his elemental skill on activation will grant all your characters a status that, among other things, will increase their attack speed by a value that can go up to 25% at talent level 13. For this reason, many people asked me whether or not he would be a good fit for characters such as Wanderer in the past. I'll analyze this later in the video. Other than attack speed, Mika also provides physical damage buffs through his passive, which will basically give your characters 10% physical damage buffs for every opponent that gets hit by Mika's elemental skill, up to 3 times. To alleviate these AoE requirements, his second passive also allows the active character to build up a stack through a critical hit, increasing the maximum amount to 4 stacks. Moreover, his Constellation 2 makes you gain another stack by default when his elemental skill hits any opponent, and his Constellation 6 increases the maximum stacks amount to 5. Basically, assuming you're fighting 2 opponents, you should easily be able to reach 40% physical damage bonuses assuming you have his Constellation 2. Against 3 opponents, you should reach 50% physical damage bonuses, but this only becomes possible once you have his Constellation 6. The last of Mika's supportive effects is tied to the aforementioned Constellation 6 too, and it's the standard critical damage bonus most dedicated supports have had so far. In Mika's case, it's a 60% physical crit damage bonus to the active character. In terms of damage increase for a character like Eula, Mika is pretty in line with other dedicated supports, meaning he's pretty great at Constellation 6, but comparable or worse than other option at any Constellation before that. Specifically, at Constellation 2 he's able to beat Zhongli, and at Constellation 6 he's able to beat a Bennett holding a 5-star weapon. However, an issue with all of this is that both Zhongli and Bennett can buff multiple characters through Hata rotation, while Mika only buffs Eula. Characters like Raiden and Rosaria are a relevant part of the rotation damage, so Zhongli and Bennett benefiting the whole team not only makes them gain enough value to be perfectly comparable to Mika, but it also arguably makes them better options overall. Now, a natural question comes to mind. What's stopping you from using both? The issue with Mika is that, while he's a cryo character, his particle generation capabilities are not good, as he will only be able to produce 3 or 4 every elemental skill, which in turn he will only be able to use once per rotation due to its 15 seconds cooldown. This makes other cryo options better at generating particles, and also better users for Favonius weapons potentially. Still, Even if you found a way to make things fit energy-wise, and became able to use Mika with somebody like Bennett, rotations would become very tight. In fact, since Mika's skill lasts 12 seconds, the full Eula rotations can take anywhere from 10 seconds to 12 seconds depending on hit lag. That means you'll need to use Mika's skill right before Eula's entrance to be safe, something that gives Bennett's burst smaller uptime for the team, and potentially makes the subsequent Raiden Elemental burst unable to benefit from Bennett's attack buffs, for example. This is all very theoretical, and in practice it might very well feel different, but it's something you have to keep in mind. In short, all current Mika Constellation 6 teams compare decently to Bennett variants, and Mika Constellation 2 teams compare to Zhongli variants, for the most part. There is also something else you have to keep in mind with him. Apparently, his physical damage bonuses don't linger if the active character goes off field. This is relevant for somebody like Eula, because her leaving the field early to make her burst explode sooner for tactical reasons is not uncommon at all at low constellations, and just a constant for high constellation speedrun stuff. If you exclude his physical damage bonuses from the picture, even his Constellation 6 impact for Eula is just around Bennett's, and his Constellation 5 impact becomes close to irrelevant. In particular, for Constellation 6 play, Eula didn't really need more damage, but rather better utility in terms of energy generation. Her main issue in those scenarios is not being able to have her burst ready every time in full Abyss runs, since the rotations become way shorter when you can just one-shot everything. Unfortunately for her, Mika's characteristics make him look more like a general use physical damage support rather than a Eula support. In fact, he arguably fits better with somebody like physical Zhongli, who doesn't have energy issues and can benefit more from attack speed related bonuses thanks to his fast string of attacks. On a team like that, Mika can be a good buff at Constellation 6, but not really that impactful compared to other options at constellations below that. On the other hand, characters such as Xinyan or Razor, who won't benefit too much from his attack speed bonuses, receive a smaller impact from him, and as a result, Constellation 6 Mika becomes more of a luxury unit for them, rather than a really noticeable buff. Speaking about other uses, like Wanderer teams, Mika can stack up to Layla Constellation 4 in the role damage-wise. In fact, his attack speed buffs can allow Wanderer to use one or two more normal attacks depending on how many attack speed bonuses he already has without Mika on the team. In either case, beating Layla's buffs on the team is not hard, but logically speaking, I would still give Layla the edge on Wanderer teams, as she provides him a shield which is much needed in certain cases, while Mika just provides healing, so something a character like Bennett already provides plenty of on Wanderer teams. Moreover, Wanderer needs cryo applications on opponents to absorb the element for his passive bonuses, and there is a scenario where Mika's application is too weak for it to live through Bennett's pyro application, so keep that in mind. Overall, Mika is a rather inflexible unit that at the moment doesn't even perform incredibly well on the teams it's supposed to fit in. Maybe, in the future, when characters that don't restrict your team build as much as Eula does come out, it will be easier to slot Mika on physical teams alongside other buffers, which would create an optimal hyper-carry core for the niche, but at the moment, betting your Primogems saving on that just seems reckless. I'm done for today. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to put a thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time!